the one that I go to in Chapel Hill University Mall. We're reading a novella, one chapter. Yeah, Cajas de Cartón.
That's the Puerto Rican.
Oh, actually, just, I had to get a good name tag or name on it, I erased it. Yeah, there were some of them that completely wiped off.
He's a professor over at University of California, Santa Ana. He's a library worker. I think every person, I think every middle school has some children. Should read this book so that they can have more. When other people are conference country, they are not invited.
And it's like, yeah, that's what she looked like.
We have to repeat that
Or what her name
at the same time. Because, you know, they were not no, it's on that level, it's on this related.
Okay. So the size is fairly easy.
This
Compared
one
to-
is easy.
compared to, I've seen. Proportions.
And then on Padilla Rodriguez, oh, but she took the literature. So the only reason why I'm here
Welcome. Hey, Michael, could you get the meetup sign out? It should be somewhere buried in there. Just put it so when people come in, they know, oh, this is the right place. Most people come in a little bit later, so you can all just hold tight for a second.
Taxes due.
Have I done my
Are you
taxes?
doing your taxes?
No, I actually have a guy in Germany who does my taxes.
That's fine.
Believe it or not. Yeah, he's an expat. Well, he's just so good. And my poor sister, she was dealing with this guy here. I won't say his name, but he never returned her calls and everything. And she had a situation where someone stole her identity and filed her taxes for her. And then she had this guy, and she finally broke down and said, okay, what's your German guy's name? What's that?
That just sounds weird.
No, it's not weird, actually. People do that, and they pretend to be you to get your tax refund. So anyhow, she broke down and she's going to my German guy now. So good for the German economy, I guess, but he's American, so I guess it's kind of a cooperative effort there. That's not gonna work. That's why. Actually, thank you for reminding me. I get that. I left it in my car.
Okay, well then I'll just start, you can disappear and come back.
Yeah.
Pass that whenever you want to.
So I wasn't sure about why it had multiple, I'm sure they'll explain why it had multiple fields for like what language, it's multiple people.
To have different reasons, but also then for, you know, one of my sentences have a lot of reasons for it. So, one of them is other reasons for it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do my introduction because in the interest of time.
Yeah.
Hey, there's an old face I haven't seen here in a while. Jermaine, good to see you, man. Yeah, I'll talk with introduction and then we can get started. I will show you. That's right, with the goods, man.
There's just,
My name disintegrating.
What's going on from Miami?
No, I've actually rewrote it last night. I'm trying to get you to the right window here. Anyhow, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I see a lot of new faces and some faces I haven't seen in a while. It's good to see you again. It's good to see you for the first time. My name's Peter. I'm the one who started this crazy conglomeration of people who kind of like languages and kind of like to talk about it and a little curious. It's not a polyglot group for those of you who are new here. So I personally can't stand those groups where it's like, how many languages do you speak? Oh, yeah. Well, I speak 5. It's not about that or to show people how good you are at this or that. It's about sharing knowledge and getting excited about language. And there's virtually no end to the topics we can talk about. But one popular one is certainly, how do I learn a language better, faster? And I'm sure everyone here could give a full report on how they've gone about doing it or how they think they might want to do it. But in a little bit, David here will tell us about that. Just a little bit about this group. We generally have presentations, not all the time. Sometimes we just get together and have a bite to eat at Neomond or somewhere. But at some point, I realized it was kind of hard to talk in a busy restaurant, hard to hear people speaking. You couldn't really see what people were presenting. So I found this little place, and sometimes I get the room and sometimes I don't. But it's kind of a nice if the people next to us are a little bit quiet. We've actually had people complain about how loud we were. That's how rowdy those language folks can get. So we do have to keep it down so it's elaborate even if they're really loud. But I did find that this is a pretty nice place to get a presentation, to get the information in there. And when you can't take it anymore, we go out for a beer or whatever across the street if you want to, or a soda or a tea, whatever you like. And there's no, you don't have to do that, no obligation, but it is kind of nice to get to know the people that you were sitting next to in class, so to speak. But the important thing is I want to learn something every time I meet this group. And I want all of you to learn something too. And I think we can all learn from each other. That's why I always like to have one of us, one of the team, sort of give a presentation. Sometimes I do it and you can do it. And if you're interested, it doesn't have to be a huge, big deal. I've got templates to give you and I kind of help you along the way. And it really could be 5 minutes because usually the discussion is so big that it carries you through the hour. However, a security guard will come by and attempt to beat me if we're not out of here on time. So I appreciate you doing that. One thing I should mention, if you're interested in supporting the meetup is not free. In fact, we just took $90 out of my account again for the 6 months of good old meetup. Feel free to drop $1 or $2 in here. Some of you have also done that via PayPal. If you've done that, you're good. Trust me. If everybody gave me 50 cents, I wouldn't have to pay money on this. So if you like it, feel free to drop in there, but this meetup is free, so there's absolutely no obligation to do that. It should stay free. So enough of my yapping here. David, if you'd like to begin. Thank you very much.
So this is my experience. There's no right way to learn a language. There's many right ways. And the best way for me is maybe different than the best way for you. So Peter's, I have 15 slides of content, okay? So I'm gonna try to pace myself so that we can get through it and have time for discussion, okay? So I can take some questions as we go, but if we're spending a lot of time, maybe we can come back to it at the end or take it offline. Is that a fair approach? Sure like to get the ideas out there by the time the evening's over. So I studied German in college. I was going to be a German teacher, but then I changed my mind partway through school and got an MBA and defected to the other side, okay? The business world. The dark side, thank you. And I think about 20 years after I graduated, I was in Washington, we were in Alexandria, and I got Der Spiegel, right? The news magazine. And my wife was driving, this is my wife Rosine. She was driving, and so I was over there in the passenger trying to read, and I could hardly understand a single sentence, and I felt so ashamed. So I went back, I got a tutor locally. At the time she was at Berlitz, then she left and started the World Company. She's since sold that. She was a great tutor for me, and I did that I think about 4 years, once a week. That really helped. And then I did a lot of other things too, which I'll share with you. And then I was downsized a few years ago, and I decided I wanted to learn Spanish. So again, I worked with a tutor and did a lot of other things. So these are the things that I've learned that have been helpful to me. I'm eager to hear what you've learned, and there'll be a handout where you can share your ideas too. And a thought is start to compile those and to have like a list that you and others can benefit from. Okay. So why do you hear people say, you know, I started to learn Spanish or French or whatever, Mandarin, and you know, I just didn't go anywhere, or I guess I didn't give it enough time. So the abandonment rate, I think, is so high because they used to publish books like this, right? And then so that's set unrealistic expectation. And the toughest thing I think is that there's long periods where you have no evidence of any progress, and you just keep plugging away. If you keep plugging away, then you get the progress later on. But because of these like desert stretches, it's real easy to give up. So it's good to know why you want to learn a language and to think deeply about it. I think if you have a lot of reasons to learn a language, then if one of them kind of dries up, you still have other reasons, and you can stick with it more. So we'll think about that on the worksheet. Now there's actually books like this. So I found this on Amazon. Okay, so 90 days was probably unrealistic. Can we all agree that one day is just not? It's not going to happen, right? So if you give it one day and you're discouraged, I read the book and I still can't speak Spanish. I don't understand. I think we need to set a sufficiently long time horizon. Think about the level you want to reach. Do you just want to know where to find the bathroom, or do you want to be able to have a discussion about like a Nobel Prize-winning novel like Garcia Marquez's book here, 100 Years of Solitude? And again, as I said earlier, there's different tools and technique that fit your own learning style. I like to think about Myers-Briggs, this is the meetup, right? There's introverts and extroverts. I'm more of an introvert. I really admire people who can be out in the crowd and just like blurt out language and learn probably a lot quicker than I learn. There's people that are more like to sift through the detail. That's me. There are other people that are intuitive. They see the pattern right away. And I also admire those people. Anyway, enough of that. So the resources that I found are helpful. I mentioned group classes. I've done group classes in school, high school and college, but then these are some local entities that offer language classes. But I find having a native speaker and working one-on-one with that person is really good. Let me get back here. So this is Jose Tojo. He now teaches Spanish at Enlo, but he was my neighbor, and when he came from Spain, we met by way of another person, and he became my tutor. I think it's essential to have this kind of one-on-one relationship if you can, or work in a small group with a teacher. So it's not a class of 30 and everybody's saying, when is that test? Or is that project really due next week? And like 15 minutes go by and there's no language spoken except English, you know. It's just, there's some, Michael's gave me a tip last time. There's this organization called italki where you can find a tutor online and do it by Skype. I think that's pretty cool. The rates are a lot lower. What, $4 an hour instead of $35 an hour?
It depends on the language.
Okay.
There's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
But for Chinese, yes, you can find one that's too.
Yeah. So anyway, so it can either be web-based or in person. You need a good dictionary, I think. I use Spanish, this Spanish Dict online, and I have an app for my iPhone. And then when I started Spanish, I just got a real thin grammar that gave me the kind of the overview. So I got it. Okay, there's imperfect and there's preterite, right? So that's kind of important. There's ser and there's a star, right? That's kind of important, right? So, and then eventually a more comprehensive one, and then one that's written in the language. Okay, so if you don't learn anything tonight, this is the thing I'm most excited about. I've used this for German and Spanish. This is a little application that I think was developed in Germany, but now is owned by a company in Spain. It's shareware. It's about 20 bucks. And I'm going to switch to this on my computer. So this is what I do every day. There's a pool of words that I add to as I find a word I don't know. So I go to the electronic dictionary, and I find what the definition is. So in this case, anquilosado, right? And I just copy that. Let me go here. This is the pool. So this is like a warehouse of words that I pull out 30 every day.
Are you expecting that to show on the screen?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's not showing on the screen. I don't know how to do that. Oh, I think I just drag it and drop it, don't I? No.
You got it. You got it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Almost. Okay. I just need to look there now. Okay. All right. So that's what I do. So this is the. That says pool. So that's the pool of words. All right. And then the other thing I need to drag and drop so that you all can see it. I can figure out the mouse maneuvering. Is this guy here? Let's see if I can do this. Whoops. So here's my Spanish dict. Here we go. There it comes, right? Okay. So this is anquilosado, which I read this afternoon, waiting for an appointment, and I didn't know it. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it to here. So I'm going to first go into so I can add words real quick. So there, and then a new word right here. Okay. So I put the word there. Hello, there it is. And then I put the definition. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Two, I'll just do that. Copy, paste, right there. Okay, now it's my screen. It's not as scrunched together. Okay, but you get the idea, right? Okay. Now I'm just going to save that and close this out. Just show you what I do each day. I currently drill about 200 words a day, and I add 30 new words each day. 30 new words or phrases each day. Okay. So I'm out of there and I'm out of there. Now, this is box 5. Says, right? Well, I should say it. Anyway, that's box 5, box 4, box 3, box 2, and box 1. So from the pool, I add 30 words. So I'll just click on this, and it's sticky, so it'll say 30. Okay. Now, I don't start there. I start at the end. And I click on this, and up comes to skirt around, which is Oriar. Okay. Hello. It should be down here. I'm sorry. All right. So now see, it says 24. Now when I hit, if this is right, it's going to leave. It's going to go into Never Never Land. It says now it says 23. Okay. If I get it wrong, guess where it goes? It goes back to the beginning. Okay. Because obviously I didn't know the words. So I got to get a word right. I got to go 1 time, 2, 3, 4, and then I got to get it right 5 times in a row, and then it disappears. And guess what? I know it. I encounter that word later in a book, or somebody says it, and it's pretty solid. You know, some of them I have an idea, and I don't remember exactly, depending on, you know. Anyway, I work all these, so this is 0, and then I go to this one. I work all those until that's 0. In other words, either advanced up here or they've gone back here. And I keep doing that until I get down to here. And when I'm done, all those have advanced to the second box. And I'm ready to add 30 more for the next day. Okay. If you want to drill vocabulary, I've looked for, this is old and clunky, and I thought surely there's got to be something better. And I've looked and I've looked and I've looked, and all I get is electronic flashcards. So I look at it and I think what the word is, but it's not forcing me to type it in. And I can fool myself to think that I know what it is, and I really don't. Or I can work too hard on some things that I already know. And this just, there's no cheating with this, you know. Now, if you sort of get it close to being right and you just made a typo, you can correct it. You know, it's not that unforgiving, but okay. I'm risking talking about things too much, so I'm going to go back. So that's VTrain. VTrain.net. Like I said, it's about 20 or 25 bucks. You put it on multiple computers, and I found it very useful. Okay. I found podcasts helpful when I was starting. So there's Coffee Break Spanish and others. These are in English, and they're explaining Spanish. They have some dialogue, and then they explain it. Okay, so I found that helpful. Later, like now, I listen to these 3 podcasts from Spain about the arts, about what's going on in the Americas, and this is philosophy and science and art and humanities and stuff. So I enjoy that. I also like watching documentaries. So here's a Mexican station, Spanish, and this is broadcast in German and French. This is a live radio from all over the world, so you can choose what you want. And Michael told me about this last time, and I checked it out, and there's lots of different languages, and that's also live. But I want to tell you another little secret another little trick that I use. So for these, you know, we're all used to DVR now, right? Well, I found something that works for me that's kind of like that. I have this app that from Applian called Replay Media Catcher, and if you have it up and you go to a website that has video streaming, it downloads it, and you can go to that screen and get it started, and then close the screen, and it's still downloading. It's that smart. Okay, so you can like 5 or 10 at a time you can be doing. So that's cool. And then I use on my iPhone, I have this HD player. It's also available for the Droid, and that way I can watch things at the gym on my iPad. And of course, I think everybody knows about this guy here, right? The VLC media player. but there's other media players too. Okay. If you're learning a language, read the news in that language. Why? Because if you're just using, the news, Le Monde or whatever in French, right? And you're interested in what's going on, and you're not using the News and Observer or the New York Times or whatever, CNN, it pulls you in. And you say, I don't know that word, I'm gonna look it up. And then next day or the next week, you know that word. You don't have to worry about it anymore because it keeps occurring. It's different stories, they're hot for a while, and so the same words appear. So I find that really helpful, and it gives magazines too. This is a cultural magazine from El Mundo that I like. So the other thing that I found helpful is getting ready for a certification exam. Why? Because my tendency is, because I'm an introvert, is to work on the reading and writing, and not so much on the speaking and listening. Although I listen to podcasts, which help. So in Europe, there's a common European framework reference for languages, and they have 6 levels, okay? And regardless of what European language it is, they have the same very specific standards about what A1 means, and so that you can test for that, so that the exams are very equivalent, even though it may be, Italian versus Swedish or something like that. And then the German certification exam I took through the Goethe Institute. They're in different cities in the U.S., and the Cervantes Institute administers the Spanish test. So I found that real helpful. And then the most rewarding things for me have been volunteering, and then we did a trip to spent 2.5 weeks in Spain, and my wife and I, and that's her there, and this is a guy from Argentina that I met on a train. I volunteered at Summit Urban Ministries, and then El Centro is a place in Durham. But I was able to volunteer. I had my gap year at age 55. Okay, I was able to take a year and volunteer at full-time at the Latino Credit Union. And because I had a business background, they allowed me to do that. I just didn't handle cash, okay? I was like a customer service person, opened accounts, straightened out credit card problems, but 85% of the clientele there is Latino, and I got to use my Spanish, including answering the phone, which was the scariest thing of all, right? So that's it, and I'd like to hear what your ideas are, and there's a worksheet here that maybe you can jot down some notes, and then we can talk.
Some additional resources I'll throw out there. YouTube is always a great place. Game shows. I found that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in your target language, if you can find it, it's great because they put the question up on there and then the answer, so you get to read it. And Netflix has several languages. Depending on the show, they have it in audio and subtitles. And you can even search for your target language on the Netflix website. So I've been trying to leverage that.
Yeah, there's a good. Last week I just watched a Netflix movie on the Mexican Revolution that I found really helpful to understand.
And then I do have a question. Maybe the group will have some ideas. I've studied Spanish, and I'm now trying to concentrate on Portuguese, and I've had to quit Spanish. I used to do meetup and whatever because my Spanish wasn't strong enough to not get confused with Portuguese. But I find that kind of like what you were saying with the flashcards, you look at it, you go, oh, I kind of know it. I don't have a lot of motivation in Portuguese to keep doing the academic type studying because of my Spanish background and because of the French background. That I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of know that already, but I don't. I know it if I hear it, but I don't. If you say, Sarah, in English before in Portuguese, I don't know it. But if you say it in Portuguese, I'm like, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying. So it's very passive understanding. So it's very hard for me to actively study and try to memorize. I'm like, oh yeah, I know it.
But I think that's why I think it's important to think about why you want to learn a language and what level you want to be at. And for some people, that's all they want. They just want to be able to understand it. They know some people, or they want to go to Portugal and they want to know some basic things and be able to understand a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to say Eduardo or
Ernesto, Eduardo.
Ernesto, yeah.
Ernesto, okay. Eduardo, right? Yeah, I gotta get you guys straight.
I was just curious, probably the question not for me, but I was being curious, knowing the other side, in this case, you learning Spanish, how did you tackle the, the differences in accent and lingo between, say, Uruguayan Spanish versus Argentinian versus Mexican versus.
It's a really good point, and you can really question the wisdom of having a tutor from Spain versus having a tutor from Mexico, given the number of Mexicans that are here versus the number of people from Spain you might bump into, right?
Well, the thing is, though, that with English, it's very uniform. I mean, you really don't have a lot of differences in the English language between Australians, Canadians, Americans, and British. Yeah.
I know, I worked with a woman who lived in England, and she couldn't find dishwashing detergent anywhere because it was called the washing up liquid. And she couldn't find anybody.
The accent is very different.
Yeah.
I would say, I think in whatever language, it's when you're talking with the educated populace, you tend to find a lot more commonalities, whether it's Spanish or Portuguese or English. But you say you take someone from deep rural Eastern North Carolina versus Cockney, in London Cockney, they're not gonna understand each other at all. So.
No, I can't understand, what is it? It's the second biggest, or it's the biggest city in Scotland. Glasgow. I cannot understand Glaswegian of Slum Talk at all. I need subtitles for it. That's and then it's Americans, U.S. people and Canadians sound very much alike, and so do Australians and New Zealanders. But when you say that to the Australians and New Zealanders, they're outraged. And then there's the South Africans that sound a little bit like the, but there's also this bit of Dutch foreign tone in it too. So yeah.
So well, I think, so I spent a lot of time on, and the quality of programming I found in Spain versus given what I'm interested in, which is more the documentary type thing and not the telenovelas. I can't take all the crying and comas. But recently, I've gotten more interested in Mexico, and I find that there's really good programming on Mexican public television. There's several different Mexican public television stations. And I'm finding I can understand it. Now, I listened to an Argentinian documentary on Borges, right? And I had a hard time. I had a hard time understanding the lecturer. And not just the je versus the yeah, or whatever. I'm Americanizing my pronunciation in both cases, forgive me. But the use of boss, right? But there's other, and you're right, there's a lot of, there's the accent, but there's also different words that you use.
Yeah, I was wondering how you tackled that.
It helped to work in the credit union because I worked with people from Chile and Peru and Venezuela and Guatemala and Colombia, a lot of Colombians. So, yeah.
I lived in England for 7 years, and I taught English as a second language to adults. And I had to use a British text and British tapes and all that. And I thought, why is this washing up liquid? And why do they call it washing up for dishes? If I wash up, I'm washing up my body. It was like, and all that 10 of those would come up every day. And I had to modify my accent. Of course, most of them in my lower classes couldn't hear the difference between British English and American English anyway. But with the more advanced ones, I sort of spoke Middle Atlantic, where things were in between. Yeah, it was really difficult.
What other ideas do you have?
Well, I just wanted to comment on what you were saying. I think Spanish was the first thing that I ever learned, and I actually was living in Spain when I did that. And I used to freak, every time I heard something that I didn't understand, I'd freak out. I was gonna fight it. And then minded and like slow motion, but you know, it was real life, so that was awesome. And like people would be weird, we started to like space out, but then I started to realize that like there are a lot of times that I don't understand stuff that like people out here are saying, and like so I had to kind of be like, okay, so it's like less important that you. I guess what I'm saying is you can kind of like reference your native language to be like, what are the kinds of things that I can expect to not understand, and what are the kinds of things that I can expect to learn? And when I like kind of came to grips with that, I was like, I'm just gonna like develop like a Spanish Spain identity and just own it. And then like from there, and then I don't know if this is answering your question. Like my approach was just like own that and be that person, and then just like assume that role. And then like once you get really comfortable in that, it makes it so much easier to just like interface with multiple different places. Because then you're just like, I don't know what the heck you just said, but that's not well, let's ask you, because I understood the boundary of the word, but I don't know what it was.
So I was just wondering because it's like, you know, it's sort of a native language for me.
Right.
But I'm like one trait that I've learned with the languages that I know, and it may probably serve, you know, in a kind of, you know, reverse way the situation with the accent, is that I figure just by looking at the faces of my person I'm talking to, that usually most people have a frame of their native language. So all I have to do is pronounce close enough to what I'm trying to say, and then we'll frame it. It's like, oh, he's trying to say this. You know, I mean, right now I'm studying Mandarin, and yeah, you know, it's very tonal. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, as long as I get close enough to tone, he's gonna frame it or she's gonna frame it into, you know, the common language phrase, the common word, you know, the common word that I'm trying to convey.
They do that in some. In various Chinese languages, the tones go with the music. And there's so many homophones, you know, for it. So but they, with the context, they get it, and they probably do the same with you. You're not talking about a firecracker, you're talking about a post.
Yeah. Can I share something very interesting I learned? One of the persons that is my tutor, or we kind of tutor back and forth, told me that, you know, they ran pretty much out of like, you know, symbols. So basically, you know, they had like different symbols, but they didn't know how to name them. So that's why they started inventing the tones. And one of the things, you know, which is, I'm pretty sure all of you have noticed, because I used to like, you know, make fun of them. But then it's like, I've been trying to speak Chinese, but the other two languages that I know are English, Spanish, and French, you know? And what we do in those two languages is that we trend to contract in order to sound more colloquial and more dominant of the language. So, you know, we don't say going to, we say gonna. You know, we don't say want to, say wanna. You know, you don't say, you know, l'école.
And G for G.
Yeah, you say l'école, l'hôpital, you know, the hospital. And one day this guy tells me, it's like, stop, you know, you're not speaking French or English, you know, the tones are very important. So that's why we speak by syllable, you know, and we will always have an accent if we speak another language other than Mandarin. Because we have to be clear, because if the tone changes, then the word changes, and you say something completely different, you know? And I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. So I don't laugh at Chinese anymore.
And that's something, there's one thing I learned about Chinese, which I probably shouldn't say, this is gonna be upsetting. The tones change for the same word.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what context it is. Two falling tones can't happen after each other. So they decided to change it just for that one time, just this one, I promise.
Well, they explained to me, you know, it's like the shotgun pattern. You know, it's like, you know, you have all these tones and all these words, and then, you know, you have the shotgun pattern, you look at the context, and you say, like, oh, he's trying to say this. You know, you pick one of all that group.
So one thing I want to add is that I think learning a language is like learning a song or music. You listen to it enough, you know how it goes, right? And you listen to it more, and as you're tone deaf, right, you can sing it a little bit, right? So I think listening is really important, and to have sufficient vocabulary so you can make sense out of what you're hearing is good too. So I listen to a lot of podcasts in the radio, I mean on the, you know, in my car or working out or whenever, you're sometimes getting ready in the morning or whatever.
I was gonna ask you another question before I all that happened. Did you were using that like beat train thing? I'm sure other people in here use Anki. Is there a reason why you don't use Anki, A-N-K-I? You've never heard of that? Oh, man. So it's basically.
Well, right, that's what I was looking for here.
It's B train, but like without the accountability. So like, yeah. So basically, just you could be the laziest person on the planet, and like you will like less.
What's the website?
A-N-K-I.
A-N-K-I.
And what it is it's like a flashcard program, and what you do is like it's highly customizable, and it uses the same space repetition kind of deal that was on in B train. You type, so let's say like it's mostly useful for like, I don't know if this makes sense, but like the beginning in the later stages of language where like you're, I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? It's like really basic things, and then like later on you can like actually use complicated words. And what you do is you type in the word for a sentence or a paragraph, anything really, or like a grammatical concept, and then it'll feed it to you tomorrow. And then it'll wait 3 days and it'll feed it to you again. And then and then you have the option of saying every time you answer it, did I do that well? Did I not do that well? Did I think it's asked? And then like basically depending on which one of those you choose, it'll either send it back to the beginning, or it'll advance it a little bit, or it'll kind of push it off way in the future.
Okay.
And it's mobile, so like you can do it on you can do it like you
that'd
can
be
enter
nice,
on your
yeah.
computer and synchronize it for free.
That'd be really nice.
So you should totally, for those of you who haven't heard of that, if you're like one of those people who doesn't like to have to remember to do things, it's super awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like creepy how well it works. Like I'll be sitting there and I'll have not spoken Spanish in like 3 weeks, and I'll just be sitting and talking to somebody, I'll remember like some random word, and you're just like, okay, where did that come from? So.
Yeah, well, thanks, I'll check it out.
A-N-K-I.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I like about V-Train is that if I don't know it and I get it wrong or whatever, I don't have to worry about like words. It just goes back to that first box, and I know, you know, eventually I'm going to learn it. So I just, you know, it does all that kind of housekeeping for me. But it sounds like Anki does something very similar.
It's the same deal. It'll push it back to the beginning, and it'll actually like it never really gets rid of the card, but it'll just kind of like infinitely keep pushing it out.
Yeah. This doesn't either, the way I have it set up. I mean, those words are still there, but for all practical purposes, I don't care about it. Yeah, but I'll check it out. It's not like any other ideas? You have the handout. You know, but what tools have you found helpful, or what techniques or classes?
We're talking about accents, and I'm from New York, and I grew up in all sorts of accents with no problem. The next thing here, and I heard someone from Henderson, and I but I'm a big fan of my talking, because not so much for the tutoring, although I do have tutors. I have one tutor that's from Venezuela and the other one from Mexico. But the fact that you can, I like the interchange, because you can have people from all over. Like when I was talking to one gentleman from Argentina, I was saying, "Amy Kashi, I don't know that word." And so it's nice. That's how you can hear other accents when you have the interchange. And those are, you know, that's all you need is Skype. And most people have Skype. The only thing that I do know is that I only talk to people who are 35 years old. I talk to other people that are serious. And so I have, it's not a joke, because I have 4 really good people that I've had for months. So, but.
Why do you think that happens? The other problem with remembering is everybody's under 25.
Probably all students.
A
lot of them were students, and that's been on my talking. And you do have to be cautious. There's a lot of young people in there, and some
from certain countries are interested in meeting American women. They're not aware to learn the language.
That's
And
every
so,
website.
and it probably goes both ways. And so you have to be very selective. And I had to have some very serious conversations with people, but I've made some great friends on it. They're now friends with mine on Facebook, and we chat, about each other's families and all this sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
I got the same problem, but it's like I met like 60 people, I only talked to 5. Because everybody else.
No, but I have 4 people, but I see them regularly. So I'd rather have 4 people that I will see regularly than 30 people that's here and there. Because also, the first conversations are really easy. It's it's the later conversations, that's when that's where I'm getting.
After you got through where you grew up and where you went to school and what your
Those are
hobbies
the
are.
same conversations.
But I
So-
think she's right though. You have to, maybe, you have to pay attention to the language you're learning and what region you come to learn it, because cultures are gonna be different. Like with Asian communities, not just Chinese, it can be, a little vulgar in some places, and it can be, I had some great friends in China through my talking, but there are also some, some really bad people. So you just gotta kind of vet it. You gotta vet
What do
it.
you mean by that? People like,
Looking for what exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because when I taught in Taiwan, and my coworker, they're all Chinese, just 2 foreigners. And I told my coworker Carol, I said, look, I want to learn English. What do I talk? She came back and said, I can't do I talking. There's guys saying, one of my numbers, she's like, I'm married, I have children. These guys saying, give me your number and you look great. And so you kind of have to, and I never think about that because I'm a guy, and I think as a woman it's even more pressure.
Can you describe for those of us that
the
haven't?
same gender as you, that's what I do.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah.
so choose somebody to say if you're a woman. choose
Yeah, there's some
a-
rules, there's some rules that you can follow.
You have to set some
Yeah,
boundaries.
set some boundaries.
Could I get you to describe, I just learned about iTalki a couple weeks ago from Michael, I've not used it. So could you, for those of us that haven't, for those of you who have used it, just describe, like, are you getting a lesson, or is it just conversation?
It depends. They have a selection where you can choose a certified teacher, or you can choose just social friends that you find. I found that for me, I don't know if it's different with other languages or cultures, but learning Mandarin, I found it better to choose a certified teacher, because I found that when you choose a friend, their level of English is up here and your level of Chinese is down here. So when you try to talk as friends to learn, you're just basically speaking English.
Yeah.
And then if you want to try to seriously learn Mandarin, they don't have the patience for it.
Yeah.
And they just want to learn English.
They are practice for English.
Yeah, so I say if you get a certified teacher you pay for, they're there to help you. But also what Michael said earlier, it depends. Like, it's cheaper to get a Chinese Mandarin teacher than it is to get a Taiwanese teacher. Like, their economy is different.
Yeah.
And $40 an hour in Taiwan used to be $5, now it's like $10 an hour in China.
Wow.
So I would outsource outsourcing to go. So if you're learning Spanish, maybe it's cheaper in another country than it is in one other. Spain might be more expensive than Mexico or Brazil or whatever. I don't know. So there are different facets. But yeah, it's great, but you need to, like she said, you need to set boundaries.
And I did a combination when I was taking a break from learning that language. But when I was doing that, I had a certified teacher that I had lessons with. But then I met some other Italians on there, and many of them were learning English. So what we did with our Skype time is we would spend half of it on English and half on Italian, but we would go over each other's homework that we had from our tutors. So we would spend, that was really helpful.
Yeah, also in iTalki, you have like language partners, so they're not quite a teacher, they're not certified, but they're kind of like, available, they make themselves available as a tutor. So you have your friends, you have those uncertified tutors, and then you have the ones that's private. The other two you don't pay, the last one you pay for. And then, I've also used like, but those are formal, those are more formal. More informal is like conversation exchange and inner pulse on that. And yeah, you got a lot of what you're saying. People trying to
Write these down if you would, and so that we can collect them and maybe have a compiled list if you're willing to do that.
Absolutely.
I was yesterday, they're shutting down Cherry Cocker
So one good resource is to use the
It's owned by
applications
Roberta,
like WhatsApp or Line or WeChat, because you can actually record voice, you know, or social language also. And then it's like, you know, they talk to you in the language they want to learn and they criticize. And then you talk to in the language that you're trying to learn and they tell you, oh, no, you put that wrong, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of like that you have that exchange without having to have a Skype session where you have to see each other. And there are not just like 50-second short voice messages, which work fine.
And then you can listen to it when you're available.
Exactly, and you can mark favorites.
Yeah.
I will say, one success story is of the teacher that I talked to, I met who I talked to. Eventually, we just became friends online, so she teaches me free sometimes. She just says, you know, because she had some hard times that I just talked about, and we just became friends. And actually, I've never even seen her.
You did voice?
Well, we just did voice, even through Skype, we just did voice because she wants to keep very professional. And one time I saw her, like, this is the first in 2 years, I've never even seen like a video, but we just went to speak, right? So, I mean, there are things that you can do to make your relationship more professional, more, and, you know, safe, a safe environment. And yeah, I mean, so sometimes if you can, italki is very casual. It's not, I don't think, my opinion, I don't think there's a lot of pressure. And they have sets where, you know, people at different levels, they say, all right, I can speak English, but my English is at level 3 out of 5, or I can speak, you know, Spanish, but my Spanish I'm native versus I'm 3 out of 5, you know, so you can choose. It makes it more.
And most of them you set up a small profile, and then you define what languages you know and what language you want to learn. So then people like read it like, oh yeah, they speak English and you learn Spanish, so I'll teach you Spanish.
My only,
you correspond and say, well, you know, they want to do this through Skype, through WeChat, through whatever.
Okay.
My only frustration is Skype itself. I mean, you know, sometimes it works.
Yeah, wow. Well, it's not a Microsoft product, I think, right?
That is now.
Yeah.
I think like the number one, that's all good stuff, but I think like that reminded me of something. I think the number one most useful thing that I've ever done was this is a little bit like weird. It's not weird, but it's like a little bit less like conventional method. And like, do any of you use WhatsApp? The texting thing. So like, if you meet somebody, if you're like traveling, or if you're even on like italki, and you build like someone to go with somebody, you can be like, this website sucks. Like, it really does. Like italki is like a good website, but the interface like. Yeah. So like, so if you can actually feel like you kind of trust somebody, you can be like, dude, you want to just use WhatsApp, especially if they're near your age. And they're kind of, and like sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, especially like Brazilians. Like I'll meet Brazilians, they'll throw their number out like at them. Like it's just like I don't give a crap. Like they're fine. And like, you know, you're kind of like worst case scenario it's for me, because even though it requires your phone number, it's a Brazilian phone number, it's a US phone number, it's a Spanish phone number. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's your phone number, but what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and like I started talking to somebody that I had met in Barcelona. They were around the age, and we were kind of like, hey, you're not crazy, I'm not crazy, we're not crazy, so let's exchange phone numbers. And so I didn't even realize it, but like in the past 2 years, I just would text them, like maybe, you know, now it's like you build a relationship, and it's like I have like an immediate native speaker source at my disposal at any time I want, and they know that they have that same thing for me. And so like I can just be like the other day I worked for NC State with like a lot of Hispanic Spanish speakers, and we were at like a camp in our boat. No, just a canoe. We were in like a boat. No, and I was sitting there and I was like, Samos, and I didn't know how to say like the boat was over. And like a lot of people that were there were Hispanic, and they were like, and I was like, huh? And then I texted my friend from Barcelona. He's like, that's South American. We would say like San Francisco or something like that.
You know what I'm envisioning is you in the water with canoe behind you.
Everyone else is there in the boat. And I'm just like, I gotta do this. No. That's better make sure if I drown for this word, that's fine. But like, later on, I was able to remember that and get that. And now like I know that and I have like a memorable experience and like it's kind of cool to just have like little language context.
Yeah,
and
that's
like
great.
especially if they're around the same like peer group as you, they're gonna be like more inclined to ask you questions because they want to know how they say that word, not how anyone says that word. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Any other tips, tricks, things you found helpful?
I would think that, I might be wrong, a teacher sort of tutored, certified in different language would be more reluctant to use slang, which of course you want to learn the language that's standard or other, whatever it is, but they'd be less likely to understand any slang because they're trained not to do that, or especially cursing.
If you watch some, whatever, situational comedy.
Yeah, you'll hear,
kind of
of course you'll
pick up
hear,
those words,
you'll pick them up, but
Yeah.
if you want to, in a lesson, well, it's good to have a formal lesson, and also, after telenovelas or whatever.
Yeah, it depends on your work. For me, it's just that friction.
Yeah.
And like you said,
I just discovered this app today called Periscope. And it's not necessarily going to help you with your speaking, but it is going to help you with your listening for natural native conversation. So what it is you sign up if you have a Twitter account or your phone number, and then anyone else who has the account, it allows them they can live stream any event that they're at right there, and it's like a Periscope into their world. And so I'm finding, I just got on there today, it's mostly people in their 20s around the world just sort of preening for the camera, but occasionally you'll find someone doing something interesting and you can hear this conversation, so you just hear a natural conversation, which when I get up to speed, I hope to be able to
The cursing is
I don't know, they just said like one was in the mall and just talking about sales. I'm like, oh, this is a mall and come on here. It's kind of fun.
One other thing, there's a, I don't think I left it on my presentation, but there's something called Thumbtack, or maybe it was up there, was it called Thumbtack?
Yeah.
You put what you want, I'm a Spanish tutor, this is local, and I got 3 people that posted an offer, and I was able to call all 3 of them, and the one guy said that he would work with me on pronunciation, teach me the phonetic alphabet, teach it over in Chapel Hill somewhere. I didn't follow through with that at the time because I was working out of town and it was going to be complicated. But thanks for your suggestions. Please write them down and we can collect them and put them. We are the time here.
We are at a time. You can just put it as a comment. That's probably easiest because I told people send me a message, but then some people can't figure out how to send me a message for whatever reason.
Just ask a comment. The resources that you find helpful on the website. That's that.
Check that out too.
What's that?
Link.
Well,
Link?
We'll add it all together and make a page. I'll send out a little message.
Link.
Can we give David a round of applause? And I think this is what I really like about this group. Now, when I started it, I was unemployed. I didn't know what to do. My sister back there said, hey, you should start a meetup group. And look at this. People are coming together, talking about things, and as we all know, everybody else doesn't want to hear about it. But we do. It was a great discussion. That's what I love about this. So if anyone has an idea for presentation, let me know. You don't even have to present necessarily. If it's something you're interested in and you'd like to hear about it, just let me know. If you have difficulty sending me a message, then talk to me in person. That always works. Next time around, we'll hear about Michael's time abroad, his magical trip to Turkey. and the trials and tribulations there should be very interesting, I think. That'll be in 4 weeks if I can get this room, 4 weeks on the dot. We'll see about that. Now, you can choose to run away quickly right now, or we could all migrate to a place where we all can't sit at the same table, but we can sit at little tables and grab a bite to eat or get something to drink if you've got time and you'd like to get to know some of the people here.
What is that place? Do you have a place?
What is it called? The Village. Draft.
Village Draft House? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Village Draft is good.
Village Draft House.
It's two blocks down that way. And you turn the
It's
corner.
within walking distance, at least for me, or if you've been to Europe, it's within walking distance. I don't know if it's within American walking distance, but I encourage you to consider that walking distance. Oh, and once again, if you'd like to, if you want to support the meetup, please do it. Thank you.